There's another planet in the solar system that they call Nibiru that was captured and moves like a comet in a 3,600-year orbit. Our own astronomers know it's out there. They call it Planet X. It has gravitational effects on the outer planets. They can't find it because it's so far out. Ancient Sumerians and what they had to say about it are correct. And what they say is that there's another planet in our solar system that was captured by our solar system as the solar system was forming.
Sumerian records indicate that they began their counting not from the sun, but from a planet on the outside of the solar system.
But most surprising was the inclusion of one more large planet as the 12th member of our solar system.
The launch of Pioneer 10 in 1972 ushers in the era of deep space exploration. The craft journeys beyond the outer known planets, sending back data that is used to seek a possible 10th planet.
14 August 1978, which was just about 6 weeks after we discovered the fact that Pluto has a satellite. Once you have a satellite for a planet, you can determine how heavy it is. It turns out Pluto was very much smaller and lighter weight than we had thought, which meant that Pluto has no influence, no appreciable influence on the motions of the planets Uranus and Neptune. At that point, we voiced the hypothesis that this means that there is at least one yet to be discovered planet in the outer reaches of the solar system.
Over the past 2 decades, physicists have joined astronomers in the search for the mysterious Planet X.
One of the things we did in 1978, having made this prediction that there was an additional planet, 10th or 12th, depending on your point of view, we sort of put our money where our mouth was, as it were, and we went out and we started looking for this thing. We've been able to refine the search area somewhat, get it rather narrowed down. We do our predictions based on the observed anomalies in Uranus and Neptune. We actually are currently looking down in the region of Centaurus, which is just south of the constellation Libra. But if it is in the kind of orbit that we describe here, it would have to be a planet that would have a mass something like 3 to 5 times the mass of the Earth. This would put it intermediate between the gaseous planets like Uranus and Neptune and the terrestrial planets that we have in the inner part of the solar system. So if this planet turns out to be in a 3,600-year orbit, then its mass will be correspondingly larger. This one here is a map of the solar system as we know it. The inner planets, this is the orbit of planet Pluto. And this here is the orbit that I have proposed for the 10th planet. And here's where we think it is right about now in its orbit.
If Planet X exists, we are not alone.
Actually not looking for a planet when I found this alignment of comet orbits. I was more interested in the origin of comets. And I just came across this alignment and couldn't explain it. And so I was eventually forced into the opinion that there is this planet out there in a most unusual position. I can only assume it's a massive body because it's perturbed all these comets. So it might be a recent arrival into the solar system. The idea of a new planet seems to fascinate absolutely everybody. But I think more than half of the emails that I've had have been about this proposed planet. I forget if it's called Nibiru or...
The theory is that there's another planet in our solar system. The ancients called it Nibiru. There's actually 54 different cultures that have names for this, not just the Sumerians. Sumerians just being the oldest. And they say there's a race of beings that live on this planet that goes around our sun and goes out around another brown dwarf. You know, our solar system is binary.
Are we going to be collided with something that's hurling out of space towards us? And we can go in our last 20 minutes to what you can conclude to be the evidence for that. But I just wanted to make our guests and our listeners familiar with the theory of Planet X per se.
Thanks. I'd love to get into that.
Okay, well, we'll do that immediately we come back from this commercial break. Okay, back to Robert Siefer and a description of Planet X, please.
Yeah, there's another planet in our solar system. This planet has a 3,600-year orbit, passes by Earth every 3,600 years. all the talk of, apocalypse or some, Jesus says there's going to be earthquakes in the end times, or Edgar Casey giving predictions, or, this is the cataclysms that everyone's talking about. The Mayan cycles, the Mayan calendar. I mean, this is what we're talking about.
And you're thinking this is to occur when? Next year?
Well, unfortunately, I can't pinpoint it to a date, but
Robert, on one thing.
Sure.
I do agree with the part that you said about the Earth reversing. Peter Warlow wrote a book back in the early 80s called The Reversing Earth.
No question about it.
And he showed that the Earth has, its magnetic field has shifted many times, and that he says that there's real evidence, and you mentioned some of it just a moment ago,
But the question
that's
is,
one of the reasons for the climate changes. So I do see that, and I also want to point out in the book of Revelation, it states that when these cataclysms happen, how the earth will tremble and quake. But in the book of Isaiah, it says that the earth will roll up as a scroll. So that indicates that it will tip over on its axis. So your idea that the earth tipping over on its axis can cause these problems is, I agree with you completely. The idea of this parallel planet, I've not seen evidence of it. I'd like to look into it further, but I've seen nothing that proves it, even interesting as can be.
Yeah, I've come across a few newspaper articles on this, but what exactly is Planet X supposed to do?
well, like I said, it causes a pole shift. Now, it doesn't have to collide with us.
Because of the gravitational attraction of this larger body?
Exactly. Just as if you took two magnets next to each other, they influence each other.
Okay.
Planets are like big magnets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the current Earth changes, this is the first indicator to look at. What's causing all these Earth changes? Scientists are saying that cow flatulence, the gas from cows, or the methane, is depleting our atmosphere, our ozone, and this is causing global warming. That and
methane gases.
but we have increased volcanism. We have increased.
My panel operator contributes to that.
Yes, we have. The caps on Mars are melting. The polar caps. Cow gas has nothing to do with Mars. This has nothing to do with pollution. You see, there's effects happening all over the solar system.
Well, all sorts of things could be going on simultaneously with independent causes.
Well, things don't just happen; they're caused.
Yes. Where is this Planet X?
What about these sightings, Robert? That would be interesting too.
Well, exactly where is it? How far is it from us? Is it approaching us?
What's wrong with NASA, and why haven't they told us about it?
Mark Hazelwood made the point that, why would anybody invest in any shares? What would happen to the stock market if we announced that there was to be a collapse or
the disaster is critical here. When?
Well, that's exactly right.
I'd say probable this decade, and definitely within our lifetime.
Really?
Father Malachi Martin, are you?
I know Malachi Martin very well. I've met him. A brilliant Jesuit priest by the name of Father George Coyne, who is the director of the Vatican Observatory.
Yes, sir. So again, there's indications all over, and frankly,
Who did discover this other planet, and why don't they? Just like the guy that
discovered the planet. Well, here's the thing.
Why don't they just make it public and let us know?
Like I said, what would happen? What would happen to religions? What would happen to the economy? What would happen?
How do you really have missed here is your evidence for the existence of Planet X.
Well, thank you. I'll address that.
Okay, but
The Vatican has a very, very great deal of power. We've talked about it. They have, whether they admit it or not, a great deal of political power all around the world. One of the things that they did fairly recently was they muscled, and I do intend to use that word, they muscled their way onto a mountain in Arizona, Mount Graham, and they built an observatory on Mount Graham in connection with an Arizona university. However, the Vatican has the larger part of the control of this observatory, looking at deep space things.
That's right.
Now, why would they have done that, Father?
Because the mentality amongst those who, at the higher level, the highest levels of Vatican administration and Vatican geopolitics,
now, knowledge of what's going on in space and what's approaching us could be of great import in the next 5 years, 10 years.